directions that we know about, and that was the date of the last meeting,
Yep.
which was not Friday, May 4th, it was Thursday, June 4th.
I didn't get, they came last night and I haven't had,
Well, if you see something after, just let us know.
Kevin King did call, just a few minutes ago. He was just leaving Exeter and he didn't think he would get here in time. They just got a road opened up, so he won't be here tonight. He wanted
Okay,
me to pass that on to you, Dana.
thank you. Okay, and then we have,
Can I just ask one question?
Oh, sure.
Where did the list come from? Was that just pulled out of the stuff from the minutes, or the topics
that list
for
was made
consider-
up by Craig,
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that
Yeah,
is
okay.
what I made up, but we're talking about the
and we should have noted that, but we'll
minutes,
do
which
that
are
next
the
time.
Yeah.
last thing.
No, I read them.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say is try to keep it a little shorter. There's some repetition between the moderator discussion and the committee conduct that's almost identical. You know, so I would just say, I think your notes you're getting there, you know, but I think they could be shorter. That's the only thing I would have to say. Do you see what I mean? Under moderator discussion, all the bullet points there are pretty much the same bullet points under committee conduct. So,
Yeah. I agree, sometimes less is more.
but anyway, I thought you did a good job on the minutes.
Okay, John is with us tonight, and there was a question regarding what direction that the select board had in mind for this committee to go forward. So without further ado, John.
Well, I think the discussion with the board is very simple. It's why we had the selection of people we have here, and there's others that aren't here this evening, is to have you all work together. And the solvability factor, and we've got, you know, we've got some other additional people on the board, I think, since we first put the board together, which I think would be very favorable and helpful. What we don't want is dissidence within the board. We want everyone to work together. We'll do our part to work together. And there's several major things. There's the current situation with Salt Shed, which I think is what Emmett is addressing, and Kevin King is part of that, which is great. There's a liability down there, and that's why we put up the no trespassing sign. And we don't want anybody in there unless Emmett is with them because of that. And I know Dana took a walk over there the other day. I haven't, maybe Addie's been down there, maybe some of the rest of you, I don't know. But I think that's the first thing we need to address. Dana is here tonight. I didn't realize you were gonna be here, and I appreciate you being here, you and Russ, to talk about what and how the budget reflects on the immediacy of that. The second part of that, and what I'm hearing from some of you, not all of you, but some of you, is when we look at the site up here, is it important for us to drill some wells and see what the appropriateness is of going up there? And I think that's a very, very good idea, and my two colleagues think that's a good idea. In fact, Marlo and I talked about it at the last meeting. I think that's like step one. No one on the board is against moving the salt shed. We don't really have an opinion yet as to the solvability of the problem, and kind of depending on all of you to come forward with several recommendations that I think you're working on. But I think, you know, there are some initial steps, and that sustaining that temporarily until we can figure what we're gonna do with it is probably the most important for the safety of it. Again, no trespassing signs are nice, but you're all reasonable, intelligent people, and we all know you can put up 100 signs, but people still trespass. So we wanna minimize that as much as we can. And that'll be a first call to order, and then finding out what we can do with this. If we need to get some wells, and what contact Peg has with that. I know we had another gentleman, is his name King? I know it was
Kevin King.
Kevin King. Yeah, he's had a ton of experience. So, you know, all of you working together. I'm just gonna try and be a good listener tonight. I've read this, and we're kind of in the first stages of where we're headed, so.
So, John, hi, by the way.
Thanks, yes, good evening.
We had, we wanted, some, consideration from the select board to tell us the direction that should we be assuming that the board, as you said, is favorable toward moving the salt shed, correct?
Well, we're favorable to doing, that's a very good question, Chris. I think we're favorable to doing what is right with the salt shed, and nobody is adversarial to moving it. And I think at some point in time, it's probably going to have to be moved within the next year or two. But it's gonna cost a lot of money, and of course, that's gonna have to go to town meeting. So I think what we're hoping is this committee has a preparatory statement that we can take to town meeting and say, this is why we have to move it, this is the conclusive reasons why we have to move it, and this is what we've done to ensure that moving it is the right thing. Those are the three, or maybe I mentioned four things that I think we as a group, you folks as a group, need to come to us with and say, this is why we should do it. But nobody on the select board has taken a stance, and none of us want to take a stance. That's why we have this committee. But as I mentioned, I think there's a liability with that initially that we also need to address and sustain it, sustain its safety right now while we're moving forward and dealing with this.
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying. The no trespassing would refer to what is currently
Right,
the salt shed area?
right.
Okay, good,
Right.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought. And then in terms of putting wells in, looking at wells, I think that Craig in his, work here that you delivered to us, which I think is really helpful. I think that having wells put in there, and I think we all agree on that, to figure out how water and salt are gonna be captured. That would be the purpose, correct, of putting in wells. Putting in, I'm not sure what you're saying about putting in wells prior to any engineering work or whatever.
Well, I think it's part of the engineering process.
Okay,
I think it's,
perfect.
Again, I'm not, don't even think I'm trying to be an engineer, 'cause I'm not. I'm listening to the feedback I'm getting from the people in this group, and listening to the feedback we've gotten for the past 2 or 3 years, and I think putting wells in place is a couple things. What's the drainage factor like, from what I'm being educated on? Is there a problem with an innumerable amount of water there now, which none of us really know? We've been told there is, but I don't know that. And anything else that you or your 2 folks within the group here, 2 or 3 folks that have the expertise, want to look for why we'd want some information coming back from those wells other than those 2 things. I'm hearing there's a lot of water in ground, but I don't know that. I mean,
There used to be.
Yeah.
So, from what I'm hearing sitting at the table, John's talking about putting wells, I'm sorry, I'm pointing.
That's right.
John's talking about putting wells in at the new location?
Yes.
Okay, and you're talking about new location or the old location?
Oh, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, just so I'm clear.
I think
Thank
we
you.
have,
So I think that we should put them in at the old location. If you're gonna have to know exactly what we're dealing with there, that's the first step I think we should do. And that way we can see exactly how bad everything is over there before we get too carried away.
So,
Peg had her hand up.
sorry, Peg.
Go ahead, Peg.
Thanks. I think we already have some well information from that area over there already. And am I correct in saying that you got David gave us the well, information, the results from the well, because he's connected to the school board there?
You mean my David?
Yeah,
Oh, he's on the school board. I don't know that he got
the well data that we got that
from
showed,
Fred Reagan.
that was from Fred Reagan.
Yeah,
Okay, so before we go spend a whole bunch of money on putting wells in the old location, my understanding is that there are already wells there, and there's a bunch of data, water quality data on those wells. So I think we need to look at that and it might answer some questions for us, and then see if we need more information. And again, I'm just trying to be prudent about not spending money where we don't need to spend money. If they've already got monitoring wells over there and years of data, and nothing's really changed in the operation of the school and the road thing since it's been built in 1971, I think maybe we start there. Do a thorough review of the water chemistry data that we have or can get our hands on, and then decide if we need wells, because it's not cheap to put those things in, and it's not cheap to maintain them. So, is there a way we can get, who's the right person to ask for all of that data?
The problem is that the wells aren't there.
No, I mean, I know the wells aren't there now.
Right.
The wells were there, so there is historical data on the water quality there. I looked at some of it, you
Yes.
provided it.
Yep.
So whoever we got that from, let's get more of it, because that was like, or was that all? I can't believe that, can't believe that was all.
That was all that we had at the time.
Was that from Fred Regan?
Pardon me?
The information you got, was it from Fred?
It was from Fred.
So we could ask him if he has anything more?
Yeah, I've already talked to Fred.
Yeah.
The wells are right out here, 10 feet off the road, where our electrical panel is for the solar stuff. And the other well is right at the end of the loop, at the schoolyard is where the wells are.
Okay,
And he said, yes, it did show salt, but like Fred told me, he says, we don't know that that's coming from the salt shed, because when, you know how much salt we dump on the school, the driveway, plus out back of the school, that all gets salted. And he says the runoff from what he pointed out to me, it's like, I always just figure in this one hill, but he says you're getting it from two.
All the way from the safety building
Right,
down
down
over
over the hill.
drain.
And that well was 10 feet off the pavement.
so there
so-
weren't any monitoring wells at the old
Those,
salt shed?
no
No,
monitoring
never.
wells there. That's why I think that you need to start there and figure out exactly what we got, and then proceed ahead, if we need to.
So this was the reason that last time I asked that this go to the select board, because this is the third meeting now that we've had. And if you asked me to write the purpose of this committee, I would not be able to, because the information that I have, and I'm not one of the experts that has all the answers, but if we were to do anything other than shore up the existing salt shed to hold on until we manage to move it, we would not get permitting to do that, because any expansion, any renovation to that site would not pass DES muster. So that's why I thought this committee was to talk about the logistics of how to move the salt shed, how much it would cost, what size to build. I thought that was the recommendation that we were coming out of, but this is now our third meeting, and all we keep talking about are looking back at the old salt shed, and that seems like throwing good money after bad to me.
And I did, in our last meeting, talk about, I made some phone calls to the people at the Shoreland Protection Act at DES, and, I don't know what they call the bureau now. It's like, if you get a permit to disturb more than 2 acres, used to be called alteration of terrain. I talked to the administrator of that bureau, and I talked to my colleagues in the Wetlands Bureau, and you are correct. The consensus is that that spot in its proximity to a Class A water, a protected water in the state of New Hampshire, if you're gonna expand it or do anything to that, with the rules the way they're written now, it's not really possible, because you're too close to the water. So unless you made it smaller and came up with a system to completely contain your runoff, I guess maybe that design could happen. But again, it would, the way it is now and the way it's set up and its proximity to wetlands and surface water, any expansion of it is, you can't do it. You're too close to the water. But don't take my word for it. I mean, somebody else can get more information, if you wanna call the people at Alteration Terrain and Shoreland and all that. You gotta have your 150-foot setbacks, you have to have 100% containment, it's a Class A water. Only 7% of the water bodies in New Hampshire are Class A. They're so clean that they're prioritized for drinking water and other purposes. There's rules now that you can't put salt sheds near these Class A waters. So if you're gonna rebuild anything, and especially make it bigger, you have to go by the laws that are now. So it wouldn't be grandfathered, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you're correct, I guess the only way you're gonna rebuild it there is to make it smaller and 100% containment, but I'm not sure that's our purpose here. I think our purpose here was to look at the potential of developing the uphill site. And so with that in mind, I'm not sure what monitoring wells over there, what the purpose they're gonna serve if we're not gonna build something smaller over there.
No, we're gonna leave what we got, but I guess my purpose of it, why I think we should, is to see exactly how bad it is. That's
We gotta
what-
clean it up.
They're gonna have to put them in sooner or later, but we should see exactly what we're dealing with before we get too into this, is what we need to do. If it's even polluted, you don't know that.
What does a well, I'm unaware, what does a well cost to put in, or two wells, or whatever we need to do?
I don't really know for sure, but I deal with it, but I don't know what they get. But it's usually they go down so many feet, and then they got a 2-inch pipe in it, and they come and, draw the water a couple times a year and see exactly what's going on with it.
As you listen to everybody's concern, we gotta figure out that and then figure out up here. And I think they're both valid concerns. I think no matter how we shake it, we're gonna end up, whether we do it or the state makes us do it, having to move that.
Oh, yeah.
But in the interim, we're gonna have to clean that up at some point too. So I think it's valid on both ends, and I'm not trying to sound like Mr. Negotiator here, but I think it's valid on both ends, what you both say, and that we should see what the total damage is there.
Correct.
To prepare for that, and then we should see our new location and work toward moving up there together as we can, but, we probably should get an evaluation of that too, so we know what we're gonna be falling into here in the next, year or so.
I could try and make a couple of phone calls to my colleagues to answer your question about the cost of monitoring wells, but I can tell you that no matter what well you put in or how you sample water, the frequency of testing and what you're testing it for, in other words, however many parameters, affects your price. It's just like baking a cake. If it's got 2 ingredients, it's gonna cost less than something that's got 12. So we wanna determine exactly what you wanna sample it for how long you wanna sample it. I can tell you that the monitoring that was done in the project that I worked on for many years, the I-93 widening project, which was all about road salt, had many, many monitoring wells on that. And we found, interestingly enough, that the highest chloride in the groundwater actually happened in the summer months. It's not always associated with the winter months, because the ground is frozen, there's sort of a permafrost, it doesn't percolate down. Then in the spring, everything washes off, and in the summer, it hits those aquifers in the groundwater, and in the dry months, it releases into the rivers, and we had salt higher than the estuary off that road. So if that's what you're going after, you're talking about long-term monitoring. It's gonna likely cost a lot of money. I could probably find out through my colleague Phil, who was the point person on this, the cost associated with all of those wells and see how much each one of them costs to give us some sort of an idea. And I can ask him how long they monitored for to get valid data. So I'll try to get that information for you, but I'll tell you it won't be cheap. And I guess that's my whole point, is like, if we're gonna move the thing anyway, why are we spending that money?
Well, I think that's a good point, but until we know what we don't know, which I think you'd agree with me we don't know how much that's gonna be. And if it's gonna be a lot of money, then you make a valid point. We don't
Right.
waste the time doing that.
Right.
Because we know pretty much that there is an issue there. But what is the state going to make us do when and if we move this? Are they gonna turn around and say to us, now, and I don't know the answer to this, I'm just kinda throwing it out there. Are they gonna turn around and say, well, now you've got to put a well down there, or wells, or whatever, to test that, to see what damage is done, because the town is gonna be responsible for it? That's kind of, my thinking, okay? Chris?
On another,
Go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
on another subject, do we need any environmental permits for the work that we're gonna do up above? That's a question for you.
I'm sorry, I was about to write a note to myself to call Phil. Could you please repeat that?
Yeah, do we need any environmental permits for the new site up above?
Yeah, if you're gonna disturb more than 2 acres of land, you need an alteration of terrain at the very least.
And what's involved in that? I mean, what do we have to do to get that permit?
There's an application that you put into the state, and they have engineers that review that, and they look at what you're building and whether or not it's gonna, they look at all the runoff and all that. So they'll look at the road design, they'll look at they review the engineering plans of what it is you're
So
about to do.
you have to have the engineering plans beforehand.
Yep.
For a full review, yes, you do, but you can have what's called pre-application meetings with the permitting staff. And I used to conduct many of those where you can go to the state and say, this is our proposed project, this is what we wanna do, blah, blah, blah. Please give me all the information I may or may not need to know. And you can get an idea of, roughly the costs associated with the applications. And then they literally will give you a checklist. For alteration of terrain, you have to have these 12 things. For a wetlands permit, you have to have these 14 things. So depending on your project, they can help you out with that. So that would be something we would definitely want to do, is just go have what's called a pre-application meeting. And I'd be happy to arrange that. I think we would want to sit down with, not just one section. This is all in the water division, so you're gonna be alteration of terrain, shoreland, and I don't know if wetlands really needs to be there at this point or not, especially for up there, because we're not gonna be impacting any.
Well, it will be the road going in, had water.
Yeah, had water, that doesn't mean wetlands, so
Well-
that may be part of your alteration of terrain permit with your drainage. That's very different than a wetlands permit. Just because if there's the presence of water does not necessarily mean that you need a wetlands permit. It has to meet the criteria of that definition. So again, a pre-application meeting with the people that know this, and all of the officers up there were cross-pollinated. When I worked in the Wetlands Bureau, I knew the alteration of terrain rules, alteration of terrain, no shoreland rules. So, they understand. We've all read thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of statutes, so they can walk you right through it.
Peg, is it necessary to have an engineer prepare the application prior to the pre-application?
No.
So in other words, you would go to this pre-application and they would tell you what you need to do.
Yeah, and all we need to do is have a rough drawing to say, okay, I would go with our map of the property, we'd show the topography, we'd have a rough idea of the size of the building and the general position of the road. They have access to way more sophisticated tools than I have on my computer to do things like looking up all the wetland soils, and they've got access to tighter topography than what you have on your GPS. They have access to tools that they don't give to the public for obvious reasons.
And if
So
they needed something more,
if we needed something more, they would tell
that's when you would go back
us.
and
Yep.
get it.
They would say, oh, we identified this little pocket, so if you develop in that back corner, just watch out, that's a such and such wetland, or blah, 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 blah.
Well, does that sound like, with the group, does that sound a reasonable first step? I mean, it sounds to me like, all we're looking for as a board is just all of you working together. And some of us might not agree on some of the steps, but I think if we all work together and try to make it work, but I mean, you know, and then I think we'll come away from that with the answer, do we or do we not need wells at both locations, or do we need any wells at all?
Yeah, because
That's
they may
how-
be able to answer questions to us about the restoration piece of that as well, which I
Right.
believe will also fall under alteration of terrain and certainly wetlands. So, you know, that, it can be sort of a two-phase pre-application meeting, say, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to restore, tell us what we need to do, and
And I
that's
would-
their job.
I would
to do.
assume this would be, they wouldn't be willing to come here, I would assume, number one. Number two, that would be during the daytime probably, right?
Mhm.
So how does that fit with everybody's schedule? Because I know people are schedule conscious. I mean, Addie and
I mean,
I don't think we all need to be there.
Addie and Emmett, no, well, maybe not, but I mean, I want this to be fair, you know what I'm saying, and give everybody the opportunity. How does, if you know in advance, can you two be there, if you know a distance in advance?
Yeah, we should, I probably can, depending upon when it falls, I
Well,
guess. Every day is different to me.
You know, I know you're working,
Yeah.
and so is Emmett, and I sense agreement, and I sense some, I won't say disagreement, but I sense some concerns, and I think the board wants everybody here to be productive in it, as you have been. I mean, I look at the notes and the minutes here, but I think the point of the matter is, we need to make a decision that there are no underlying decisions to keep it where it's at, that it's gonna be moved, and the reasons for that, because we're gonna have, as a group, we're gonna have to speak to that at town meeting. And I guess when we come out of this committee, one of the major concerns coming, major productions coming at us, not a concern, but we'll address the concerns, is why we need to do this.
So the other, at our last meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes I dream a lot, but I thought before we moved along much further down at the new location, we were gonna get a hold of the landowners, the abutters, and get a feel from all them before we put a lot of energy and a lot of money into engineering and stuff to make sure that all the abutters and the people around were on the same page as we are, so we don't end up in a lawsuit or something in that line. Not to throw a monkey wrench into the soup kettle, but I thought we all agreed on that at the last meeting. That was gonna be our next step before we spent any money to go any further there to.
Do you want to have a public meeting? Is that what you-
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, right,
Yeah.
because spend all this money
Right.
to get all that, and you got one abutter that's gonna, whatever's cause a stink, and then end up in a lawsuit, or,
Yeah.
I mean,
if you
it's
have a-
only
if you-
fair, it's only
Yeah.
fair to, and I thought Peg and Addie and I agreed on this, well, like, as us three, not the committee, when we walk down over that hill and the way the lights are gonna shine and all this and that, to, just to at least let the abutters around that property know what's going on, so if they have something to say, they can say it now before we get a lot invested.
And we did that with the bridge.
Correct.
And I think that's a good idea, and we certainly could do that.
It's not an
Kinda
additional
jump over
cost.
that.
I mean, it's right in the minutes that we agreed
Right, but
to
we,
discuss.
right, but we jumped, it is in the minutes, but we jumped over it. at
But
this
no,
meeting.
I mean, it does say that it should occur once the committee has more information regarding the project, so, just so we know what we're telling them.
Yeah, and I think
don't know what
Russell
we tell 'em
pointed
right
on,
now.
made a comment on that at our last meeting as well, that it might be more productive if, when we have the public meeting, we can tell them more about what our plan is. Right now, I don't know what the plan is, so I'm not sure, I know what we might,
Well, the plan- I
what we
mean-
might wanna try to do overall, but it might be more productive to have a little more information about our plan, especially when it comes to what might get built up there, you know, size and scope and maybe even a potential layout. I think that would be, I think the abutters will ask for that, and it might be better if we have some of that. So I don't wanna put the cart before the horse, I agree with you, and the alteration of terrain and all these permits require you to, you know,
Right,
have a
correct,
public hearing and tell
correct.
all you let your butters know, so it's part
Yeah,
of the
no,
process.
it's not
So
the
the
first
question
2
is like,
I've ever
when is the
cleared. I
right
mean,
time to do that?
I've done all this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so have I. So, you know, do we do it now, do we do it later, and how do we make that decision? What's the way to go?
You
about
are
it?
gonna need answers for people.
Yes.
If they're gonna ask, like you say, they're gonna ask.
Yes, so that's why I'm going back to putting some test wells in over there, so you have answers for the people that wanna know just how bad it is, and you got your reason then. If that shows that it's really bad, then you've got your reason to move it. People are gonna go ahead. But if you don't have a reason, I'm gonna tell you right now, the cowboys will come out of the woodwork that don't wanna see this moved, and we're done. That's
Addie,
how this,
Addie,
you're not listening to me.
I've been listening to you for 3 meetings, and it's the same thing over and over. You wanna go back to that old site. We need to move ahead. And I think the importance of the wells, I agree with you, but I think instead of doing the wells up front, I think they're gonna be part of the remediation process. We will need to know just how bad it is over there.
What if it's not bad?
Oh,
You don't know that. We don't know that. The pine trees are still green. If there's salt around those things, they'd be brown. And that's a proven fact. When you drive down the highway, you're gonna look at those pine trees on the side of the road from the salt mist, and they're all brown.
Yep.
They're dead. These are still alive. So I have a doubt, and I'm not just the only one that has a doubt that, is it that bad?
I wish you had been at town meeting when we gave our report. It was quite in-depth, and it was a report that John Clark himself stood up on behalf of the select board and said, I think we have a mandate to move this salt shed up, because the situation over there was that bad. And the woman that gave us that information then was Amanda, the chair of the Conservation Commission. And,
So how does she know it's that bad if there's no test wells?
well,
How does she know? She doesn't know. That's what I'm pointing out, to the fact that you don't know how bad the ground is.
Well, okay,
We
I'm just
don't
gonna,
know.
please, my hand first. Okay, so I'm gonna just go back one more time to the water quality report that I looked at. I don't know why I don't have a copy of that in here, and wherever it is, I'd like to have another copy of it, because I'm gonna go find out when that was tested, who tested it, blah, 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 blah. The aquifer is contaminated because the school's well taps down into the aquifer that is underneath the school and underneath the salt shed. And we looked at the aquifer map, we know it's on that side of the road. So I understand what you're saying, you'll see the brown trees, that's they call it surface burn. But again, I can show you more damage on I-93 in the wells.
I'm sure
in
you
people's
can.
drinking water wells and the streams that don't have so much as a frog in them, and it's coming from the aquifer. So that water quality report that I got, I looked at the results, and I looked like I was reading an I-93 monitoring well report. Those are huge numbers.
Was that part of the report that, and I did, you're right, Chris, I did say it was an excellent report, because quite frankly, that's the first time I've heard a report on any of this. All I've been hearing since I came on the board was we're gonna move the shed from many different areas. Well, we don't move the shed. And I just wanna make sure we make a good decision. And if part of that is putting a well or 2 wells in, I don't have a problem with it, just to confirm.
That it's bad.
But my point is that if, again, who has this water quality report? You let me look at it. Who has it right now?
right this moment.
Where
I don't-
did
I
it go?
didn't bring it.
Okay, so can we ask the guy, Fred, at the school again? Can I please have that, and I'll go pick it up from him?
I honestly don't think he has it. I think, that I know one well, for a matter of fact, he said it's gone. They tied
No,
right
But the
over it.
report.
I'm
she
talking
saw
about the report
Yeah, but
that I saw 2 weeks ago.
I mean, he,
Does Amanda have it?
Does Amanda have it?
Amanda must
might
have all
have
that documentation, I would assume, from the level of report.
Because what they're gonna do on that well is gonna have a location, it's gonna have an identifying number. Every single well, drinking water well, monitoring well has a number. And I can go to my people and say, I want every speck of data on that well and every other well that's around it. And there's a whole database that has every single drinking water well and monitoring well in the state. That's a whole layer. They don't share that with the public for obvious reasons. So I can get access to that if I have a meeting, and I can find out, you know, how much data we have, what the data shows. And my point being is that if we have enough data and it's pretty conclusive, then we have our answer. If we don't have enough data, then we know how to forge ahead. So, I don't think anybody.
I hear what Addie's saying, that we have to prove to the non-believers that there's a problem here, but even, I happen to be a believer that there's a problem over there with the well and the water and the salt, but it's not gonna serve our needs going forward anyway. We're going to need a bigger facility, and we can't put it there, so we're gonna have to move it.
Why do we need a bigger one? You have 300 tons of salt go in there a year, roughly, 270, give or take a little bit. 9 loads, maybe, 30-ton loads. And it's
Is
done
this
it for
gonna
all
last
these
us
years.
yeah?
37 miles of road. That's all we have.
So,
Patty, the
what would
purpose
these-
of this committee
I know what the purpose
The
is.
purpose of the
I'm good.
committee
Just, we're
was
good.
to move forward
We are.
and get a salt shed in a safer spot. That's what we're trying to do.
If we need it.
We need it. If you'd like, didn't we televise, didn't we have a videotape of the annual meeting? Can you make sure that Addie sees that? Or,
Well, how about
I'm good.
this? How about, Addie, what would appease your concern? Let me just,
What would appease me is to put in 2 test wells,
okay.
that's
okay?
thousands of dollars.
It doesn't matter how much it is, you're gonna have to do it sooner or later. Whether we do it to start or we do it to the end.
If we're gonna clean
you're
that
gonna have
sand,
to
if
do
we're
it.
gonna, if we're gonna, if we're gonna
Move ahead.
if we're gonna move everything from here, from A to B, we're not gonna leave that contaminated for the next bunch like
That's
they
the
did.
remediation phase of this work.
Correct.
That comes at the end.
Right, do however
Right
that
now,
all works, and
we
Peg's
have-
gonna talk to them people.
Yeah, I think, again, you know, I'm a scientist, data talks, BS
Yeah.
walks. You show me the data and you've proved it to me. Okay, so I think that's what you're looking for. You're looking for proof, you're thinking like a scientist, which is a good thing. So let's go see if we have data, how much we have, and how conclusive it is. If we have enough and it answers the questions, then we move on. If we don't have enough, then we move in a different direction.
You okay with
So to
that?
just
Yeah,
automatically say we need 2 wells without showing me the data, that's where I'm gonna call you out, because I'm a scientist. Prove
Well,
to me we need
I-
2 wells.
I would-
Because I looked at one water
So-
quality report, let me finish.
Yeah.
And maybe there's more, and that was my point. So that's enough said on that.
But I'm
That's
just
how I feel.
saying where those 2 wells were, you have got the town plus the state dumping salt, just like you do on 393. And it's running down the hills, both hills, and it's headed right to where that test well was. And the other one is right behind that loop, and the well is probably from here to there, away from that loop. And then you got the parking lot out back of that school that gets salted. And so you're not just dumping sand there, that's getting,
They
that's
don't want
black.
sand there.
No, they don't, they never have, since it's been there.
And if you don't put enough salt down, the telephone rings and wants to know
That's
how come
correct.
you're not coming back because the teacher doesn't wanna slip.
And Fred Regan, when I talked to him, he's not blaming the salt shed. He's not, that's not what he's blaming. He's blaming the state and the way we lay it on out there. And I mean, it's black. That yard is black. And
And what we don't know about Fred is whether he appreciates the fact that there's an aquifer directly under the salt shed.
Which, you know, there is this Green Snow Pro program out there that absolves the applicators and the towns and the property owners from liabilities of slips and falls. If you participate in the Green Snow Pro program, they'll teach you exactly how much sand and salt to put down, at what ratio, under what temperatures and what conditions. And if somebody slips, if you're a Green Snow Pro member, you cannot be sued. The DES, and I work with the people that pass this legislation so they can protect people, so that they put down just what they need and not more. And what's happening in that program is it's a good thing. You don't want to put down more salt, because if it's not working, it's not working. You're just wasting money. And so what you do is you put down the appropriate amount of salt at the appropriate amount of time so that it works, and ultimately you save money. And this is what they're doing in all the parking lots down in Londonderry, all the stores, all the shops, all the restaurants, all those big owners, and the highway. That's why they got the brine trucks, and they've got those temperature monitors up and down the highway. So they're not wasting our tax dollars buying and putting down more sand or salt than they need to. And it's working. And now we have done it for enough years where now we have monitoring data that's showing that the aquifer, the chloride in the aquifer is going down. Some of the streams are actually being cleaned up. So that might be something to think about for not only the whole town, but for whoever's applicating over at the school. Get Green Snow Pro certified, figure out exactly how to do it. This is the UNH Technology Center is leading the country in this research. Not New England, the country. So these experts are in our backyard. All of the data and everything is right at UNH. You can go visit their stormwater research center. They love doing public tours, blah, 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 blah. This is where this research is coming from. So it's not even coming from Maine or Vermont or New York. This research is coming from New Hampshire, our own backyard. So there's no question that the amount of salt that they're putting down in the elementary school is probably contributing to the contamination of the aquifer. All the more reason to become Green Snow Pro
So
certified.
just use sand.
Yeah?
If you can.
Well, then.
You got a school that's
But-
not gonna let you
So,
use sand.
well, we don't have to do the school.
Well,
They can do their own.
well, that's a good thing.
You
I
could
have a-
require them to hire a Green Snow Pro applicator,
But what are you
and
gonna-
then you're
Well, see,
covered.
that's good information. I never knew, my ignorance, I'll admit, I never knew that program was out there that could be applied across the street. I'm not sure Addie or Emma
No.
knew that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the kind of education I
You
think we
take your
need.
sander bodies over and get them calibrated so
Yeah.
that's all in line. We've done that, we do that. So it's,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a good point. And
So
it's-
Aubrey Volker, is the salt reduction program manager, the Green Snow Pro person. And she is one person that will come to towns and speak. So perhaps when I go up to get a hold of Phil to find out about the monitoring well data and ask some questions about a pre-application meeting, Aubrey's probably sits 20 feet away from them. I can ask her to contact the select board and see if you guys would like a presentation on that. And she does get paid to go out to the communities in the evenings and, speak and stuff like that.
I think what's important is we sit with the state, as you pointed out earlier, and listen to their education on this site and what we need to do and how we need to do it, and how we can move forward as we look to the future to move that site. But I also want to be, as a board member, I also want to be across the board. And Addie's point about the 2 wells, I think after we get done that educational process, I think then Addie and Emmett can be at that meeting, which I hope you 2 gentlemen can be, and we try to have it conveniently so you can. Then we look at it from that point there and say, okay, do we or do we not need the wells? Because I think and the information you're going to get, I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, from the school and that study they did, I'd also like to ask that young woman to come back in, talk to town meeting, and maybe give us a presentation. Not that we didn't hear it at town meeting, because we did, but there's some members of the board, and Addie wasn't here and others weren't, that maybe need to hear. And that might be important too. So we can we can take all the information we're getting and then make some good decisions. But I do think, I do think that there's an issue there. I'm not saying we need to move it, but I'm not saying I'm sure we can keep it there. I need to hear more information, and I want to have bona fide information. I mean, we're doing a lot of talking, and you're probably the most qualified here to talk about it, with your engineering background, but I think you're right. We have to have the state push us in a direction so we can say, we've gone to the state. It's not just us, but we've gone to the state and you've provided solid information for us to consider this move. Eddie is right. I've watched this town, and all of you sitting right here have watched it with me, for the most part. There's been many political issues that have come to this fore, and I don't want to see this to be a failure. In my year and a half sitting here, one of my things is I want to see us be successful in whatever we do with this. I don't want it to be an adversarial situation. And I'm sounding very much like a politician here. Maybe I am, but the bottom line is I want to see this be successful. Whatever we do with it, I want it to be a success. And it's gonna, this is probably the most expensive project that we've seen since, I don't know, I would say the public safety building, correct me if I'm wrong, but.
It'll be more than that for itself.
Oh, I probably will,
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah, I probably will. But I want to be middle of the road with it, the board wants to be in the middle of the road, those are the kind of things that we need to do. It's gonna take some work on our part, and I guess we need to look at a timeline, and, I'd like to see us have some answers by early fall to go forward with this, as we get into the,
Just a sidebar question, how much did that safety building and the site work and the parking lot and everything, how much did that cost?
That's a good question. Hattie, do you
It
remember
was
that?
$1.2 million, right, for the building, right?
I honestly
Yeah,
don't
it
remember.
was
I
$1.2
didn't-
million.
I didn't retain
And then,
all that. I wasn't
after
involved in
it got up, then they had to take and fix the roof, then fix the windows, tear the parking lot up again, right?
Was there
That's-
site work and engineering?
The
and-
site work it's just a mud hole there, so what you're starting to deal out with is a mud hole, okay?
Can you find out how much we spent on that
Yes, I
project
can.
for our group, please?
That's a good point.
Thank you.
For what,
I don't
redoing the driveway?
I'm curious.
No,
I
how
wanna-
No, that was,
Oh, the whole.
Yeah.
the whole building was
Yeah.
it was
The
$1.2
whole
million.
Yeah, I don't,
And then I think we voted in another $250 on it to fix it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
How
fix
long,
it.
Peg, does, I have two questions. If it was necessary to put wells across the street, how long would it be before you knew the results? How long do you have to test?
Quite a while, right?
Well, you're gonna get information from the very first test you take, but when it comes to chloride, you're gonna wanna monitor for a full year. And
So you get
with
all
the
the
I-93, we had several years worth of data, because we had been monitoring a lot of the rivers, and we had drinking water information from people that had had their wells, the drinking water wells tested, and there was other well information because of alteration of terrain. There was a lot of development down there. So in general, I'm gonna say you're gonna need a minimum of a year. Depending on how crazy you wanna get with all of this, and I'm not gonna get into statistics.
And how long for an alteration of terrain permit?
Okay, if you submit a complete permit to alteration of terrain, and that means it has every single signature, every single plan, thing that's required, if you submit it to the state, their goal is to review every application within 3 months, and it's a first come, first serve. And obviously, there's a building window, so there's certain times of the year you might be able to get it sooner, and there's other times of the year that you might be able to get it later.
Does
I
that
can ask,
include the pre-made?
and what you can do is
Yeah.
you can go on to the state's website today, and you can find out, if you submitted a complete application today, where you are in the queue. They'll say, right now, it's gonna take, if you submit today, it'll take 4 months. And tomorrow, it might say 5, because they got 47 more applications.
If you went for a pre-meeting, I'm sorry to keep asking the same question, but a pre-meeting, and you've got, I guess they're gonna guide you in what you have to do to put in an actual application.
Yep, there's a checklist
And
that goes with the application.
So I guess I'm trying to think of the whole process. We'll say 4 months just because we can, but what would you say the whole, from start to finish of getting that permit would be?
after you have all your engineering, after you have all your paperwork in place?
Assuming you'd have to get someone, you'd have to hire someone to do the engineering and get that straight.
So again, if you have a complete application, it depends on where you are in the queue. And you can do this for the Wetlands Bureau, you can do it for shoreland, you can do it for alteration of terrain. They'll tell you on a day-to-day basis how far out they are. I had to do it in my wetlands, so sometimes I was 30 days out, sometimes I was 4 months out.
But it's a smaller window than what you'd have to do with the wells across the street.
Yeah, a monitoring well is completely different.
Yeah.
You just put in your well, and then depending on how much you sample and how frequently,
Yeah,
you know,
So,
okay.
that's how you do it.
thanks.
So what I could do there, because we have so much to look at, and you don't have to do research and development, it's like, rip off and duplicate. Let's see what they did for monitoring wells on the I-93 corridor, how often they sampled, the frequency, and how long. And Phil, who was the point person on this whole project for the state, is gonna be a wealth of information on this, and he can give us an idea. He'll say, put a well and monitor it for at least a year, and, you know, whatever he says, I'll come back and I'll tell you. But, you know, we probably wanna mimic what was done down there, because that was sound science and it was defensible data. Because the frequency and duration of your sampling is gonna directly correlate to the defensibility, the statistical significance of your data. I could give you one sample point and tell you what it is and say that's the truth. But if I've got 50 and we do the average and do the seasonal and the whole water table, account for rainfall and everything they did down there, you're gonna get really, really good defensible data.
The wells I got, they test them 2 times a year, spring and fall, and usually you can see it vary a little bit, you know, but not.
What are they
It's,
testing for?
gasoline,
Gas.
benzene,
Okay.
yeah.
So for chloride, I can tell you they do that a little
Yeah.
more frequently, it's a
it's-
different thing.
I
so.
see they send me the whole thing twice a year,
Yeah,
and it shows what's going on with the groundwater.
what's the quality of water here?
We have had it tested, when, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and it is drinkable. It doesn't taste great, but then again, water
No, I'm
doesn't
just
have to
curious.
taste
No,
great, but
curious.
it's
Yeah.
safe, but I haven't had it tested for like 4 or 5 years now.
Because you're probably about the same distance from the sand shed. Well,
Yeah.
no, the well at the school would be further, twice as far.
well,
Well,
the distance is
we're also
immaterial,
not-
because they
okay.
tap out of the same aquifer. If you look at the
Yeah,
map,
but this is gonna
the
be,
aquifer comes under this building.
would this
and
be
it
the
co-
same?
Yeah, it's the same aquifer,
I don't
so,
think we're over the.
No, I'm trying to,
yeah,
I'm just,
let me,
teach myself,
You-
I guess, so
I have the aquifer map here,
that's,
so.
So if the school's well is worse than this well,
Yeah.
it's quite obvious that the salt is coming from.
and it might not be, but was
What
it
Fred
salt?
said.
Fred said, it wasn't the salt, what, your friend, I always forget her name, but from
Amanda.
Frost Lane. What did she say was in the water? It wasn't salt.
It's chloride, it's sodium chloride, it's
Okay,
salt,
okay,
NaCO.
so it
It's-
breaks down
You
from
just
that.
call it
Okay,
salt, it's
okay.
NaCO. It's the chloride is what you test. Because there's different types of salt, but it's the chloride. that-
So-
it's a killer.
Okay, yeah,
This is your aquifer map, so.
yeah, we went over this
Yeah.
the other.
There's us, and here's the school, and here's the salt
Yeah.
shed, so it's the
And
same
that goes
aquifer.
all the way down.
So if you're drinking water from here,
So
there.
this is Clothespin Bridge?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
So
'cause
that's
there's the
quite an
river.
aquifer there
Yeah, it
then.
is, yeah.
So where's the river?
River's right, see the squiggle?
Yeah, oh, okay, so it,
Squiggle, river's right in the middle.
oh, the river goes right down the center of the aquifer.
Yeah,
Okay,
The river runs through it.
yeah, well, over it.
It's a movie, huh?
so yeah, the distance doesn't matter, because the well goes down into, they're drinking out of the same
I'm used to
pond.
getting picked on.
So what I'd really like to do is me personally, is walk away
Picked
from
on
this
my whole
tonight
life.
All right, I have to
Well,
go this.
with an understanding of what we're gonna do.
Well,
I think, first of all,
used to
okay,
it.
if you get this meeting going, then I think Dana starts looking at what the application is, but I think, I'd like to go to this meeting and hear what the state has to say,
I don't have a TV.
and
so
whatever
it's all
further
right.
information we can get. I'd
Okay,
like,
so I will call Phil, and the
Okay.
first thing I'm gonna do is ask him to sit with me and have a meeting about the monitoring wells. I'll ask about frequency and duration and get all the information I can about, if we were gonna put wells over there, what that would entail, what we would sample and how often. I can find out right now what the timeline is for a complete application on the alteration of terrain. I can do that tonight when I go home on my computer.
Well, I think my point is, I would like to see this committee move forward. And not, yeah, I think it's great to have the wells or whatever to test to make sure that
Yeah.
that's a problem. But I think the committee needs to move forward. That's my own, I'm not on this committee and I shouldn't be saying this, but
I thought
I
you
Well,
were.
the other thing I can
Yeah.
do is I can get an actual application that has the checklist that goes along with it, and I can
I
bring
probably
that
could get
to,
it off the website.
You can get
then,
it off the
so You
website.
don't have to.
so
yeah.
we can get an idea of what that body of work looks like. If you were gonna put together an alteration of terrain permit, here's other 14 things you need to do.
But that's 2 acres plus, right? Over 2 acres, so if you did an acre, no, I'm just asking a question, I'm not, whatever, but if you cleared an acre and a half, you wouldn't need that permit, correct?
That's my understanding. But just the road alone and everything that you're doing on the side of that will probably,
Okay, so that's.
gonna be more into
That's
it.
added to it.
oh
where
yeah,
you're
because
doing
it's the
road.
whole project.
Out of curiosity, did we need a permit for that road when we did it or not?
No, we didn't clear over 2 acres.
Okay.
No, he just did the driveway
Okay.
in that short piece.
But that's, I'm just asking the questions. That's completed, so would that be part of the new project? Because that's an access.
The part of the road that already exists would not be part of the project, so what
Okay.
you would do is you'd have a picture of everything that's there in, I don't know, light gray, and then
Yeah.
all of the stuff you're gonna build up in there would be your drawing of what you're about to do. And you have to do that to scale on,
Do we have that drawing anywhere? Has anybody put that drawing together?
well, we don't have a drawing of where the road is exactly gonna go and where the building's gonna exactly go. We don't even know the size and shape of the building, so.
That's a whole other step.
We
Well,
don't, so, yeah.
Can I say a few things here? If you wanna go to the town meeting next March, that puts a timeline in everything,
It does,
okay?
you're right.
And I think, where we're at is, you're gonna have to show the site, talk to different engineering firms, invite them over, just like we did with the bridge site. You come over and say, here's what we want, what can you do for us? They submit bids. So, it's gonna be a month after they submit the bids, you get that. So you're into the fall, right? And then, they have to do their work, before you can get this permit, they have to figure out the road and all the stuff you need for your permit. And, so you're looking at December, right? So hopefully by that time, you've got an idea of what this, maybe some preliminary cost estimates are gonna be. I mean, that you can not only go to the town and say, here's what we need, but here's how bad it's gonna hurt.
See what kind of feedback you get from that.
Exactly.
I mean, I look at this and I try to listen to everybody, and I hope I am. With the prices of gas, with the prices of everything out there, you look at this community, we have a lot of retired people in this community. And I'm gonna say it, my wife and I are very fortunate, as I would hope all of you are, I think. But quite frankly, some people aren't so fortunate. And there's others that have come to meetings, and Eddie makes a good point with this, so they're just gonna be negative about something because it's gonna cost money. I just think when we go into this as a team, and that's my term here, that we do it in such a manner that we have all the numbers down and we have the actual evidence to say, this is what we've gotta do. And once we have that evidence, and I've heard a lot of it, but I wanna see it in some type of structure. And once we have that evidence down, and your hard work at what you're doing with the state, and I've said that time and time again, but I think we need to have that meeting and have that evidence together and a price, like you're saying, as to what we're gonna engage in here with tax dollars. And look at that in September, or October, hopefully get that wrapped up by September, October, so we can then move forward, as Dana and I and many of you are saying, to knowing what direction we're going, and how we're gonna do it.
Good. I mean, I think that that's all really great. does the application, will the application, need to have, what we plan to do, the shape of the salt shed, how big it is, and all of that? Do we need to have that?
Yeah, a complete application has to have full blown out engineered drawings and all that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but it,
But what I'm talking about, like, what I'll try to do is get, like, and that's when you're submitting your actual application to the state. We can do many, many pre-application meetings with them, and I think the first one that we can do, and, you know, I've gotta go up there and talk to Phil about the wells anyways, is I'll say, you know, just overall for a project of this type, they can tell me, which applications we're likely gonna need. For example, we're probably gonna not need a shoreland permit, so we don't have to
Right.
apply with them, you know? So, we'll figure out the actual applications we would likely need, and then those have that checklist of items, which I think will actually help guide this whole committee, and we can divide and conquer. I mean, obviously Craig is dialed into the engineering piece of it and has expertise with that, dealing with the bridge and all that. And so we can kind of divide and conquer. So, yeah, if you're gonna actually submit an application to the state, if it's not complete, they go like this. Thank you very much for sending in your application. When it's complete, please
So
send
why
it back
would
to
you
me.
just hire
Have a
somebody
nice
like
day,
Boone or
and you're
somebody like
gone.
Harry Stevens or somebody to do it
When
that
it's
does it every
complete,
day?
the permitting officer says, okay, you're next, and does it, but it has to be complete. So
Yeah,
that's the
your point was-
process. So that's what the pre-application meetings are good for.
So-
All right, so I'm sorry, he was, said something.
No, I
Could you
just,
repeat that?
I mean, the guy that does it for us, I mean, you hire somebody just, I mean, not, it's, you have the expertise to do all that, but when it comes to us, Addie and I, when we go to do a clearing job like that, we hire a professional to do that, so all the boxes are checked,
Done.
but you, it sounds like you,
I would,
Yeah,
I would.
it sounds like I can do this, and I own an engineering company, I have my own LLC, and I am an environmental consultant, and I do this for people now, for a job professionally.
well, then we could pay you.
So, no, I'm on the committee and I'm doing this for
Well,
free.
But
But
that,
I'm just saying, I'm your person, this is what I do, I've
Craig's
done
trying to
this
get
for
awarded.
other
Right.
students, so you're right, this
yeah,
is what I
no,
do.
that's what we do, because we're not you, we hire somebody.
Right, so you don't have to hire somebody, I'm gonna be that liaison for you with the state and try and save a lot of money in that regard. And then let's let Craig speak, because he has a hand up.
Well, I would view this as a function of the engineering company you hire, you know, let
Do
them square the boxes and.
Do,
Just
so,
do this
so
stuff.
they got the liability of whatever could happen, but I think before we go too far, we should talk to the neighbors that are around up there and the butters, plus from the town hall here right to the top of the hill, just so they are clear of what
We're
is
not
gonna be
clear.
happening.
We're not clear.
Well, you're already clear, cause you wanna build a shed. They should know what's happening around
We don't know
that.
how big this shed's gonna be.
Doesn't
We don't know
matter,
where
you're gonna
this
put
shed's
one
gonna
up there, that's what you're trying to do, you're trying to build a shed up there. These people should know what's happening.
I think that has some reasonableness, and I don't wanna get down, well, no, I wouldn't want us to get down the road and have some roadblock come up with a neighbor, but there again, you're the committee, and I you know, I don't think that I don't think that stops us going to the state and having that meeting, but I do think we should have a meeting with the neighbors
Oh, yeah.
At some point.
sooner than later.
I just wanna answer to Craig's point
Sorry.
of having the engineering firm submit your application. You can absolutely choose to do that, but you will be summarily charged for that too.
Oh, yeah, no.
So my only, what I'm trying to bring to the table for you after 20 some odd years of working at the state as a permitting officer is I may be able to defray some cost for the town, paying for things that we don't necessarily have to pay for. If you hire an engineering firm to walk in there with your permit,
Yeah.
I'll guarantee you, I've seen it done before, I'm not gonna say names or whatever, but purposely send in an incomplete application, it's missing two things, and then you gotta go back, and then they got more billable hours, and they send it back in, and, oh, they got everything, but they forgot one signature, and it's all billable hours. I've seen the game they play. I saw it all the time when I was doing wetlands restorations. They did it to buy time, to stall, and also because they can charge more, okay? So,
I,
with my experience, I can say, like, one of the things that I would like to bring to the table is as much as I possibly can to save the town money, because listen, man, this is my wallet too, okay? This is why I'm here, like, this is my money too. I'm not gonna spend my money on something unless we need to spend it. So again, if we've got monitoring data and it tells me what I need to be, I'm pushing back on you. If I can walk in with a complete application and do all the meetings, I'll do it. I'll do it for free. You wanna pay an engineering firm $300 an hour? Go ahead, but I'm gonna fight you on that. So I wanna be able to, again, we'll look at like what we can find from the state, what we need to do, we'll have a checklist. I'm not an engineer, so I cannot put a stamp on a plan, so you will have to have an engineer do your plan, but there's a lot of this that we can do, you know, in-house. You got it, that's it. So go ahead, Craig.
I think we need, again, an engineering firm for a lot of reasons. And I talk about it in this document here, but, you know, in terms of the road, you know, what are you gonna put the basement level, what's your running level? How's the drainage gonna work, all that. The running surface up above, you know, what's that gonna be, what's the drainage look like? And I think we can do that without talking about the salt shed in particular. I mean, just talking about the site, developing the access road, developing the site. And use that as going forward for our permitting.
The state
With
will
the-
require an engineered stamp plan with your application.
Yeah.
So we have
So
to have an
get
engineer,
anyway.
period, the end.
Right.
So, can I say something?
Yeah.
When I look around this table, and my personal stride with this whole thing as a board member was to get all of you together, because I know not all of you are gonna agree, okay? But as individuals, you each bring a lot to this table. Your experiences, your backgrounds, and I'm not trying to kiss up here, I'm just trying to say, everybody brings something very positive. Peg, you are going through the same situations I go through talking about public safety. I've done it for 54 years, and I know what I'm talking about, you know what you're talking about. And when I talk about liability, I've lived it. All I'm saying is, I can understand, maybe it gets very frustrating here, but you bring a lot of knowledge to this. And so don't you also talking about the engineering aspect of it. We just need to figure out how to balance with each other so we can all move forward with this project. But we need some of these first steps, and I think to say again, Dana, probably you need to work with Craig, is it my first name? Craig? Work with Craig and figure out how much an engineering firm is gonna charge us. We need to figure out how much these wells are gonna charge us, because I haven't heard a number come out on that yet, if we need to go that direction. But first and foremost, as Peg has pointed out, we need to sit down with the state and get better educated on what we're doing here. And if there's forms you need to start, you're willing to start filling those forms out and get those things going, that's extremely appreciated from the board, because that does save us money. And you're all right, we go into this thing, we've got to be very careful with money, because if this thing gets exorbitant, we're not gonna be successful.
One comment
Point me.
is, the cost in terms of engineering won't be known until you have a showing and you get proposals back from the
Right,
engineering
right.
firm. And we're looking at minimum 2 months out from right now. I mean, even if we agreed on what we need from an engineering firm.
gets.
That's all I gotta say.
Well, let me just extend that. Where would you look? Is Dana, do you know where to look for an engineering firm? Emmett, do you?
Don't you,
Well, there's a
no,
whole-
John,
there's a whole-
the very first, meeting that we had, Peg was telling us about the fact that she's got a list of engineers
Okay,
that she's
well, I
worked
didn't know
with.
that, Chris, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I've hired engineering firms, so.
Kevin, the other day was on the phone, and he was in Sutton, New Hampshire the other day, and he
Who's
really.
Kevin, who we talking?
Kevin King.
Kevin King, the young
Oh, I'm
man
sorry,
that
okay,
they
I
voted
didn't-
on, or you
Yep.
guys have
Yep.
put on there.
Yep.
And he said if anybody had a chance that was in Sutton to stop and check out their sand shed up there, because he thought that looked pretty good, and I think Aaron engineered that. Your friend that used to work here
Yeah.
back in the day, that
Oh, Aaron, I'm sorry, I
that
didn't
did
thought you
some
were.
work for you at the gun
Aaron's up
shop.
in New London, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she engineered
Yeah.
that project.
And she's still doing engineering.
So, I just,
Yeah, no, good.
go ahead, dear.
So, where is it in Sutton?
Sutton, is it Sutton Mills?
Yeah,
It's right on one
yeah,
fourteen.
can't miss
Yeah,
it.
it's right there.
It's right there on the left.
Franklin's got a new one too. So I gave, in our last meeting, I gave you that list. I think we have copies of it, I gave to everybody. The guy at UNH, the salt shed guru there, gave us a list of engineering firms that have built, that specialize in building salt sheds. And I thought in our last meeting, one of the tasks was to be, to call some of those and, folks and make contact with them and where's that stand right now? Do you need a hand with that?
I did not call any of them. There's a list, as Dana says,
Yeah,
there's a
we have
list
a
of engineering firms that are approved by the state for this kind of work.
Right,
And
You already did that.
what my thought is, we get our requirements together, we send this out to all of them, and not just anyone on your list, anyone on the state list, we send it out, we
Okay.
have an open showing, we get bids back. It's not like,
Right, but
this
we
guy,
have to
oh,
make a
this-
sheet so the engineer knows what they're gonna be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's gotta be apples to apples.
so that
correct?
was in your purview, so you have that list of the things that we want the engineering firm to do, and then we have that list of engineering firms we're gonna mail out to. Is-
Dana has, yeah, we have that info.
Okay.
And the statement that came with here, I tried to summarize what requirements I thought we're gonna need for an engineering firm.
That are
And
in
the
here.
requirements are gonna drive, when they come out, you say, what do you want here?
Yeah,
And I say,
right.
here's what we want.
Yeah. So Kevin, I mean, he had quite a few engineers that he dealt with, that he may be able to help us with that too, possibly. Help, if it would help you.
Yeah, I've talked to, pretty much all of these engineering firms have done salt sheds. and
Yeah.
It's really common.
Yeah.
to
Oh,
do this
that's
stuff.
all good with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I saw a really nice salt shed up in Center Harbor, but it's probably a lot more than what we need.
Yeah,
That's
and I
good.
saw one in Franklin just the other day that looks like it's, definitely awesome, but not like $1 million shed at all.
Where was that, Peg, in Franklin?
So if you're coming home from Franklin and you're taking that right to get on 127 to go the back way, and you're heading up the hill,
Oh, that's a state shed.
that's a state
Yeah,
shed.
that-
That
yeah,
one right there,
yeah.
that looks brandy new, and they got the concrete blocks and the
Yeah,
dome over
yeah,
it. That's
that's
not
been-
And I know one of the examples that Steve sent, that there was somebody, I wanna say, I can't remember the town, I'd have to dig it on my paperwork. It was like, the building was $75,000, and it showed a picture of one of those. But then that doesn't include all the site work and
Correct.
everything, so, it's definitely, and that's where, I think it was our first or second meeting, saying, maybe we need to go get another subcommittee and go look at a few things and see
Well, I
what
have
we
looked
might
at a
wanna do.
bunch of them. You go to Bow, the state just built a new one down there on
Yeah.
3A, up on the right-hand side. I've looked at them. Henniker just built a new one not too long back.
And New London has a new one,
Yeah.
so that's in our backyard.
Opticon just built one 3-4 years. Is it
Oh,
longer
I
than
don't
that
know.
now?
So the one I put up years ago is
So
done.
yeah, we gotta figure out kind of what we sort of.
You get it, Peg, you get it.
Well, I had that all,
Wait,
I had,
wait, you
Go
gotta
ahead, Craig.
take turns.
I'd like to put out discussions of salt shed, even though it's fun to talk about salt sheds and what's good and what's bad. But, we have a more urgent task in front of us here, and that's the access road and the site. And I think that's where we should focus on at the moment, rather than, it's easy to go down this rabbit hole and talk about various options, but I don't think it's getting us closer to where we need to be.
well, maybe that's a subcommittee issue. I mean, you know, maybe that's a rabbit hole you don't wanna go down, but I've been making it kind of a point to just kinda drive around and educate myself, so that when we're talking about this, which is gonna be apparently sooner than later, we should have an idea of the size and type of building we want, because that's gonna feed into the engineering quote that we need eventually.
Well-
So I guess, are you saying there's sort of two kinds of engineering quotes? We want one first just for the site work, and then one for the building work? Is that what you're suggesting?
I mean, there's gonna be a lot of, yes, there's gonna be a lot of variation in terms of what we want for a salt shed, okay? I mean, there's a lot of different options, and we can work with an engineering firm if we want. We can look at things, but, let's put that off. Let's not deal with that right now.
With it, put off what?
Who's let's? Like, let's put it off, like,
This committee, not talk about that right now.
not talk about it right now.
Not talk about what, Craig?
Types of salt sheds.
Oh, I think that should happen in a parallel kind of way, so that we can move forward. I mean, Emmett should be the lead on that, because who here
I already
knows?
put a drawing together for somebody.
So, so that it's not a distraction to the main committee, that's why I was thinking maybe that's a subcommittee thing. You know, maybe 2 or 3 people, whoever wanna do it, can come back to this full committee and say, okay, we've looked at 27 building types, and these are the 3 we think we should consider. You know, that's kind of does that make sense to people to do? Because there's
Yeah.
lots of
Right.
types and lots of costs.
It makes a lot of sense, but Craig is on the right path. Getting the road up there, getting that leveled off, because in my eyes, before I go to build something, I have to see it.
So let's do a parallel path. You know, we'll have the site committee preparation, road building piece, and then we can have another group of people working on, you know, the building type, and then in between all that, we're gonna work with the state to get information on wells, and
I
we're gonna
really
get information on permit. You know, we're not gonna do one thing at a time.
Right.
We're a big committee, let's divide and conquer, you know? Otherwise, we're gonna get done with this in 5 years.
I think
know?
you need to get up there with one of them rotary mowers and level that out, so when you people go up there and the townsfolk will go up there, they can see what they're looking at and where it drops off and where everything happens. Can you do that without your 2-acre permit?
If
cut
you're just
brush?
cutting brush and stuff, yeah. Yeah.
I thought you could, but I just wanted to
Yeah, you
ask.
can cut brush, it's when you start moving the dirt and
Right,
whatever. And I
correct.
can give you some guidelines on
Yeah,
that.
so that, I thought, I was pretty sure, but I just didn't wanna get the
Yeah,
town.
just like I can go cut the brush off my yard.
Right.
So,
That's what I would think.
so these 2 pages, Craig, that you put together are sort of site
Don't you think
preparation
adding on?
stuff
Well,
for
I think we
engineer.
should talk to the neighbors
So,
before we go
um,
too far, I'm sure.
I already brought that up.
Is there any,
No.
Kicked in the
is
ass.
this I mean, you have more experience than me, so I'm gonna defer on this.
So we need to give the neighbors, what, 30 days for a meeting, is that correct? Or what is it?
There's no,
Okay, so,
in a meeting like that, you need to have information.
so before we get a hullabaloo going with the neighbors, maybe it is a good idea to speak to the neighbors and have a meeting. So how do we go about that, Nate? Is that something the board and you can schedule, and it'll be in the
We can
information
schedule a
meeting?
meeting, we can send them a letter.
Just to let them know what we're
inviting
thinking,
them.
right? Is that what I'm hearing?
We can't do another.
We don't,
But what
what's
is-
our plan
Is
though,
it-
John?
To
Should
build
we
a salt
just-
shed.
Well,
Should we
that's-
just send them a letter
We
that
don't
just
have
says,
anything to
Well,
show.
bear
For
with
your
us, Chris, bear with us.
information,
Go ahead.
for your
Sometime
information, we have formed a
They're
salt
gonna
shed
wanna
committee to
see,
look at,
they're gonna
at
have questions
the
about the
potential of
road
building a
and where
salt
the
shed
road's gonna go
on the
and
property. that-
lights.
Right, I just don't want that
see
to raise
the
its
road.
head,
Yeah.
so, you know what I'm
I
But
saying?
we
think
don't
any
know where the road's gonna
communication
go
is
in,
good.
Yeah, I
and we don't
agree.
know where the
There.
salt shed's gonna be
Yeah.
up there.
Right?
Okay,
One at a time. Go ahead.
So I really think that we're putting the cart before the horse here on a number of different issues. I think you two are the experienced people with salt sheds. You've been doing it for decades now.
But where I'm at, and maybe it's just me, is I don't wanna spend a lot of money. I don't wanna spend $10 if the neighbor's gonna fight us on it. We need to find out, if all the neighbors aren't gonna fight us, and there might be one, and they might say, great, that's just it could be just a get-together to let them know what we're doing, and then we can come along with the plan when we get one.
Or do you think
What
it's
would be
gonna
the,
say?
what would be the downside of doing that?
What's that? Go ahead, dear.
What would be the downside of, well, I think this is what the debate you're having is like, do we do it sooner or later? So let's do the pros and cons. So if we do it sooner, what are the pros and cons? If we do it later, what are the pros
Okay,
and cons?
So if I'm a person, if I'm in a butter to this thing, I might ask how much water is gonna be coming off that hill? And we won't have the answer to that.
We're not gonna have the answer to it afterwards. It all depends. The other night, we got, and I know I'm getting off track, but the rain gauge, I watched it go up in 20 minutes. We got 3/4 of an inch.
Oh, yeah, no,
So
I know.
nobody can guarantee anything about how much water. It will be, we'll just tell them, it will be engineered. The water's gonna go where it's supposed to go. And
Okay,
I think when you give them evidence, which we have, that we're going to do the engineering part of this, I talked about that tonight, what we're planning and thinking what we'd like to do, we're gonna go to the state, we're gonna do the appropriate thing, and Peggy's gonna lead that charge to the state. I think just giving that information, and I think what you're gonna have to do, excuse me for being the marketing guy here, but you're gonna have to market this to them as we go down the road with it. When we get the final plan, maybe invite neighbors back in again, say this is what we're doing, we wanna make sure you're good with this. I mean, this isn't a one-stop shop deal. I think this is gonna be a continuous communication project. Another aspect of what we're doing, this is a major, major thing for a little small town.
Yeah.
And there's only so many of us that are doing this, so it's gonna take some time, and timeline, I'd like to think a timeline, when town meeting gets here, we'll have a plan, but we might not have, because there's some things we need to do that might take timely purpose and where we're headed. But I think we do need to communicate this, I think that's important. I'm not sure I'd want this going up next to my house without being invited in some sort of informational process.
right,
So
I don't want
in
negativity
your
towards it.
experience dealing with people
Mhm.
and town stuff, is it more advantageous to do it sooner than later? I know Addie thinks it's more advantageous to do it sooner than later. Other people think it's like, all right, we need to have more of a plan. In your experience of doing these things with big town projects, like when you did the safety building and all that, you must have talked to abutters about that too. Was that the process, and did it go
I think
well?
communication is extremely important. In this day and age, I think it's
Sooner
over
than
the
later.
top importance. And
Yep.
I'll be very frank with you, the engineer that Emmett is talking about, she and I worked together with DOT and folks like yourself, putting a lighted crosswalk, one of the fifth in the state of New Hampshire, across the road on Route 103 and 11 in Newport. And think of what I'm talking, it's one of the busiest highways, but Erin helped us with that, she did a great job, and that's where I met Erin, and we brought Erin into the projects here. She's the one that did the salt shed in Sutton. I don't know what Erin's doing now, I know she come down and talk to us, to help us with some, and I'm not trying to step on anything you're doing, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
invite
you know.
whoever you want,
What's the-
you're not stepping on anything.
Erin,
Did she work on the?
she did, she's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
working,
Yeah,
I worked
I know.
with her
yeah,
when,
very nice person.
Right,
very
she
good.
did, when we
didn't have a good
On
experience at the
Bastion
end.
Hollow?
Bash and
Well, I
Hollow,
know.
she worked on Bash and Hollow, and then when we added the sand over here, she surveyed had that surveyed, the back line, and did all the engineering stuff, so we could pile the
Yeah.
sand up where it's
Yeah.
at now, to get it away from the river.
I've never, I had a great,
Dara.
I had a great experience with, she had some negativity in the end of it here. But people have lifestyle changes and she was going through one, I'm gonna be very honest with you. But I knew her quite well, worked quite diligently with us and a major contractor out there in Newport. And when you think about it, Newport's a much bigger town than Webster, but it's very much like Webster. There's a lot of good old boys, and a lot of people don't wanna stop for people at 7:50 in the morning going across to a major plant. But we made it, we were successful, and worked very well with DOT. But all I'm saying to you is, we've got a lot to, but I think communication is very important. I personally, I'm a communicator. I like to talk to people, I like to discuss with people. We might not always agree, and I accept that, but the bottom line is, I think we need to communicate, and I think that's part of our process. And I think if we get those people on board with us, we're gonna be successful.
So if we did something like this, do we have a a target date we're looking at to have a public, initial
I
public
think we need to have that
information
before the
meeting?
end of the summer.
I think they
Yeah.
need a 30-day notice in the
30.
You're
paper.
right, yeah.
I'd like to communicate before we spent a lot of money.
No, I think it's a very valid point.
Yeah,
I mean,
Everybody brings a major point and a simple point to this, and sometimes the simple points are the ones that are gonna get in the way, excuse me for saying that.
yeah.
and we'll just.
Devil's in the details, right?
What are we
Um,
gonna accomplish in the next month before the next meeting, or?
Let's have a public meeting with the landowners this next trip,
Or
And Peg will-
schedule
and
one.
schedule it.
And Peg will be working on
Okay.
the meeting with the
And
state,
then-
if everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna get
The
water
state.
quality, monitoring well information, I'm gonna get application information, I'll bring some paper applications with me, and I'm gonna, yeah, those are the two things I'm gonna focus on.
Craig and Dana
And
start
then
with
I'll,
this
I'll
thing.
ask the woman from Green Snow Pro to
Okay.
contact selectmen if
Good
you ever
point.
wanna have a
Well,
presentation.
maybe we should have a school person here for that too.
So this is gonna be one.
Craig and Dana need to think about engineering companies, what we're looking at there, and some pricing, maybe what that's gonna cost.
Well, until we contact them and have a show them.
Well, that too, but we
You're
need to
not gonna-
schedule that.
Not gonna have any idea of pricing.
But that's not gonna cost us for a showing, right?
No, no. they
Let's
show
get
up
a
and-
showing schedule.
And they, they may say this is too small a project, or you can't afford us, or,
Well, that's what we need to know. That's a very good point.
So do we wanna have the site showing, invitations out within the next month or so? You said you have a list with Dana to the engineering things, is that something we wanna try to accomplish?
Is there other thoughts in the room about that?
Do what now?
So Craig is saying we should invite, people to potentially bid on the project of the site work, of clearing it, making the road, like these 2 pages of, things that are listed.
For the engineer.
And the engineers can say, well, yeah, okay, I'll bid on that or not. So what do you call that? You open it up for bids or open it up for site?
Requirements,
Request for proposals.
request for.
Request for proposals.
And I think that's a point in time too, Emma, where this diagram that you drew up, I don't know where that is, but this diagram you drew up, I'm not saying this to be rude, but I know it's sort of, you put it sort of an elementary thing together, thinking, this is what I'd like to do, and it can be moved, or it can't be moved, or whatever. But that can be shown to them at the time and say, look, this is what I'm thinking.
Right, but we don't know if we're gonna go with a wooden structure or a.
Well, no, but
It doesn't mean
I
the
get
type,
all
just in general.
Space.
Right,
Space.
how
wanna
much
put a
space we
building
need,
up
Space,
right, it was
right,
7
sorry,
bit,
I
I
didn't
had
say
it all somewhere.
Space, yeah,
I can
use
do it
space.
again.
But I think, so it gives them a general, sorry? It gives them a general idea, but I think bring that back to the table.
And
we
that
have-
would be something for you to tell Craig, is
Yeah.
this, I want this building to be 300 by 200 with this much parking lot. And
The only thing that I suggest, I know whatever's, but if we build a building like we have, but bigger, it really needs to have a lot more pitch than that one, because you start shoveling that off with 3 feet of snow on it, 2 people.
Well, that's another liability right there that I'm gonna say to you too. You shouldn't be up there shoveling that off. I mean, you do it, and we appreciate it, but that's a whole other liability that haven't been
Yeah.
discussing.
But I think that's why a lot of the places are going with those
Right,
quants of
right,
things,
yeah.
because it just sheds off.
Correct.
They don't even do
But
But all
that.
you need is one person to fall off
Oh,
that.
I
How much
know.
is that gonna cost us?
Well, it's gonna cost me, because whoever. was
Well,
over
it's
there
gonna be a
was-
joint, town will be involved in that too.
Well,
No, it's the
Next
people working
meeting
for me,
date?
the workman comps under me.
Next meeting,
when
do you
they're
feel-
on
when do you wanna
on
be?
a Project.
Yep, everyone wanna look at their calendar and.
It's 8 o'clock.
But we made some
Well, I
progress
think-
Wow,
tonight.
this meeting went fast,
We
but
made
there's a
some
lot to
progress.
do.
There is.
You know, there's a lot to friggin' do every time.
And we're not all gonna agree, so everybody have patience with everybody.
Okay, so July.
And I think that we should meet more often.
Not right
No,
now,
I
we
don't
have too
think
much
so.
work to do.
We got some
you
things
might
Give me
not
a
have
month.
much
I
to
need
do,
a-
but.
Because
we
if it
have-
wasn't raining tonight, I'd been in the
Yeah,
hayfield.
me too. I get stuff to
I'm
fix
sorry,
in the
I don't need
garage
to be
right
so
now.
negative, but, okay.
Lucky
Just
brother.
so
Well,
slow.
right.
Just
It ain't drinking beer in there either.
So can we get some collaboration on a date?
You wanna take some of this off my plate and we'll meet in
I
2
know.
weeks? I mean,
And I don't
look
think,
at the work I gotta do here.
that man doesn't drink,
I'm being
so
realistic.
Listen, I will help you.
I know that for a fact.
Indeed.
I think Tuesday night's probably a good night.
July,
For 30 days.
Tuesday
Should the
nights
next
are
meeting
good
be
nights?
the meeting with the neighbors?
Yeah.
July 21st, is that too soon?
Yeah, are you good with that? You folks?
Warden's
Well,
meeting.
we're
But August
doing-
4th.
This is a
Well,
public
we're gonna
Yeah, you
explain
couldn't just
what
say in a
we-
letter, hey, heads up,
Yep.
we have a
Yeah.
committee that's.
Yeah,
We'll
I
talk,
think-
maybe some of them have some ideas.
Yeah, work on that.
I agree with Mary Jo,
I am
it's just
assuming-
inviting
Oh, no,
neighbors
that's
to
gonna
the
be a
next
I'm
planning
not
board
feeling
meeting.
sympathy.
Not a public hearing, it's just, you're invited to
Yeah,
make comments.
July 23rd,
Oh my gosh.
July 23rd?
Is
It's a
that it?
Thursday.
That's a Thursday night, capital area meeting.
How about the
No, I don't have
28th?
one this month.
Can anybody meet sooner though? I mean, is it just
28th 's
me?
Friday night.
I don't,
No,
No,
about July.
it's summer.
July
There's lots of
23rd.
stuff going on, I'm gonna be away.
That's Thursday.
It's just, I'm not.
Oh, I'm talking about Tuesday.
No,
oh,
me
okay,
neither.
28th.
okay.
I
about
might
the
be in
28th?
Pennsylvania I might be leaving for Pennsylvania, what's to
Let's
the
get it
fourth?
sometime mid-August would be good. 10th of August, somewhere in that area.
That's a Monday
I'm on
night.
vacation.
Tuesday night,
That's the
or
11th.
after 15th, whatever.
So what are you thinking, August?
Middle of August.
12th, the 12th.
There you go. That
It's a
sounds
Wednesday
awesome.
night.
I
That's
know, I don't think I'm gonna be home on Tuesday.
I thought you were at the church Wednesday night.
I'm the
Just the
first Wednesday, I'm there
first.
on the 5th, not on the 12th.
So we're looking at
Food
August
pantry's
12th?
always the
August
first
Does that
Wednesday.
work?
I'll be at the firehouse.
Let me just,
All right, I'll shorten my vacation, August
No,
11th.
don't
No, it's
do
okay,
that.
it's a short trip. August
Sure, why not?
11th,
That's a Tuesday night, as long as I don't have a ward,
Just do
that
it.
might, I don't know if that's the dinner at the firehouse, I'll have to look that
Then I
up.
because
think-
nobody can do it
Russ,
August
not to
4th.
tell you, but I would offer.
I can't do that.
Well, that's
Or
what
you
we
planning
said.
board.
For
Right,
action.
Craig?
Saying that.
That's the planning board meeting August 4th, right? First.
Yes,
First
Yes,
Tuesday,
planning
board.
first Tuesday.
So what are we looking at, August what?
The
and the
11th.
second
Okay,
is the 11th, if we have a,
August 11th, is that what?
that will be a ZBA meeting if we have a ZBA meeting.
Well,
That's if we have a ZBA.
August 13th. It's a
Wait,
Thursday.
I
I know
said,
it's a
I'm
Thursday.
hearing dates go all over the place.
Yeah,
here.
what's the date,
I
guys?
could do the 13th.
August 13th would be best, if everybody else can do it.
And
It's a
that falls
Thursday.
on a Thursday?
Yeah,
Patty, is that okay?
Yeah.
because I don't have a
Craig?
capital area meeting that night.
I'm
I,
sorry.
I can't do that night, but it's okay.
Is that good for everyone?
You can't.
Looking
Why
down
can't
the
you?
road
Because
here.
there's an important bluegrass
Mary Beth?
festival going
No,
on.
we're
You're
inviting
going
the
with- why would
abutters
I
to the
go with
13th.
Mary Jo,
You can go with me.
August,
Let's just.
Yeah, I'm putting it in, I'm not really
Plans.
crazy about meeting in July, and August, to be honest. I'd like to get it.
But if
Me
we wanna
neither.
do
I
this,
have
we gotta,
plans, I just, it's summer. It's the
what you'd
middle of
like to do
summer.
is meet before that or what?
After.
After.
After, okay.
September.
Really?
oh, that's, I'll
But-
have more, I'll
You
have
get
information.
done cutting hay and then you're gonna start all
Oh,
over
I'll be
again.
cutting corn.
Oh, Peg,
I won't
how
be.
come a couple of us, if you get that information, how to get that paperwork started and filed up,
Yeah,
why do, I mean, not to.
I'll start working on the,
We could-
the application and the checklist stuff right away. One of the things I know they want is the list of abutters, and Russell already did.
Yeah.
We already got it. So
It's in-
that's what I
it's in
was
the packet
asking.
there.
Is everybody comfortable with the 4 or 5 things that I mentioned here tonight about working points as we move beyond this? As I'm going to inform the selectmen with Dana, the other 2 members, what we're going to do and how we're going to try and get this done. Is everybody good with what I've put out?
I don't feel like we've got a concrete plan, but
Russ, would you put out the 4 things we talked
So
about?
can we go, just
So
go
what
through them right
about-
now?
Yeah.
I
I
gotta
have
hear, I gotta hear
Public
this.
hearing.
schedule the meeting with the neighbors,
Public
contact
hearing.
engineers.
Contact engineers, find out that you're going to talk with your people at the state and find out when we can have a meeting, daytime meeting with them.
Pre-application,
And that might have to be in September.
yep.
And with that, we're gonna check into what wells are gonna
Okay,
cost
well-
us, and you 2 gentlemen are gonna start looking at engineering companies to come back to us with some information. Okay? Does that
And you're
make
gonna
s-
start roughing out a good picture of a building
Right.
that you're gonna give to Craig, because he might need that for the pre-things. and
Sure.
the
Now,
details.
what about the hearing with the landowners? When's that gonna happen?
That's what I was asking. Are we doing
No,
that on the
that's
13th?
13th
The 13th of what?
The
13th.
13th of
Of
August.
Oh,
Oh, is that what we were doing? I thought that
Yes,
was gonna
that's
be
what
our
we were
meet, I
doing.
thought that was gonna be our.
Just-
We can do that on a different date or we can do it on the
That's
same
gonna be the
date.
meeting
That's
with
the
the
question.
people.
So meet the people and then have a meeting at the same time?
Because then it said, you want to have to-
Or pre-meet.
on the
That
13th?
would be a long night.
I would,
That's a good point. You should
I would
remember.
say
Can't you get up there and put it-
send them a letter saying that this committee exists and that that's what we're, and this is what we're doing, is
And
looking
this is
at
the
that
next
site.
meeting if you would
And
like
it's
to
the next
attend.
meeting if you want to attend.
If you would like to attend, good
That's a
one.
brilliant idea.
That's a brilliant idea.
Is that okay?
Just so they can show up if they're interested to see what's
Yes.
going on.
And then you guys write that letter.
So
No, I
you
can
guys
do
are
that
good at
tomorrow.
Your job
this,
is
you're
to do
good at
that.
this.
I can do that tomorrow.
Now, will you send that registered letter so they can't say in a 6 months, we never received that?
Right.
You can do it.
We can also follow up by calling.
Okay, no, right, but no, don't you think that's smart?
I hear what you're saying.
Because if they don't
Rich
get it,
people, I called them all.
yeah.
And you should
I
go
mean,
right
some
from
of
the
those
bottom of the
people-
hill to the top.
Some of those
Starting right
people
out
just
here,
trust-
neighbors out here, right to the,
So what are we gonna do if they say we don't want this work?
Have to see what it takes.
I mean,
Right,
they
you
don't
you
have a
have
right
it.
of refusal.
I don't think that they can say that they don't want this because we've got a situation back there.
Well, they can say they
They
don't
can
want
say
it.
They could say anything they
But
want.
Say
that
anything they
doesn't,
want.
that doesn't mean they can
It's gonna-
stop us.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
I mean, most of these things are trustees.
Yeah.
They're not even.
And I
I think we were somewhat successful this year.
I think we should invite them certified mail, because I know in the application process for alteration of terrain, you have to let all the abutters know that you're filing for an application, and that has to all be certified, you know, to let them know that you're doing this and you're filing an application.
Yeah.
And you have to send in the
We're not-
receipts for the
The
certification.
one issue with certified is some people never go and pick them up.
Yeah, and we're not,
I don't
But
think
you're
we're
not,
there.
the state
We're not
won't
fast.
hold you liable if they don't pick up their mail. You have to show that you sent it to
Right, but
them.
aren't we gonna do a separate hearing when we do the alteration?
No, we're gonna do it all, might as well just do it all at once, right, Peg?
Well, I don't think we can because we don't have anything to tell them at
I
this
think the
point.
first
For the
contact,
application, you
if we
have
send a
to,
letter and we call them, we want it to be
Yeah.
friendly.
yeah.
If I get a certified letter, usually it's not good news.
that's a good point, because
So-
people don't know that we're
Yeah.
inviting them for just
Right.
feedback.
And there's nothing
And
wrong with
then-
telling people we don't know what we don't know.
At some point, we'll probably have to send them. a
You're
certified
right.
letter.
Correct.
Same.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't
But for
know,
now,
three
it's
very
just-
powerful
All right, have a
words.
good night. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's a good point, because, you know, if it's certified, they'll think something's wrong, and it'll be more of a, you know, a nice invitation. But I do know that the permit will have to have that certified list of abutters, you know.
It's usually from the tax
Now we know
collector.
Okay. All right, lots of
Thank you.
homework. John, thanks for coming, because this was helpful.
Well, I try to be a good listener and I try to make good points.
Did we decide on when we're meeting again?
August
August
13th.
13th. August 13th.
August 13th, 6:30.
Okay, August, I'm not gonna,
Peg, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.